This episode is sponsored by Surfshark VPN, and they know you're a fan of stories, so they asked me to tell you one. It goes like this. Once upon a time, you got your online privacy back. The end. A VPN levels the playing field like Shatter the Sky. It encrypts your online data to keep governments, marketers, and everyone else off your tail. And Surfshark VPN lets you watch or read region-restricted content without having to sell your soul to a demon. Just pick a server from where you want to be in the world, and you're there with no infernal contract required. You wouldn't play a burn deck without Lightning Bolt, and you shouldn't surf the web without a virtual private network. Tell you what, I'm going to give you 1% off for every time I have lost to Tybalt's trickery today. That's right, you're getting 83% off if you sign up with my promo code Magic Arcanum. Not only that, you'll get 3 months free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. You thought Siege Rhino had value? Please. You don't have to be Jace to want to protect your thoughts. Using Surfshark VPN is easy and lets you planeswalk your way across the internet with a layer of security that would make an Elder Dragon envious. So try it out today using my link in the description down below, and you'll even be helping to support the show, which starts right now. Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Etzen, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. Rogues are a key part of any adventuring party. Sometimes they're helpful lockpickers and trap finders, and sometimes they're lethal assassins striking from the shadows. The Magic story has seen its share of scoundrels over the years, so we thought it would be fun to rank them by lore. Let me remind you how that works. Each legendary rogue character from Magic's story that has been depicted on one or more black-bordered cards will be given a score from 1 to 10 in 4 categories. L is for legendary, which measures how much of an impact this character had on the story. Do they even deserve to have a legendary card? Now, I admit this will favor newer characters as their stories tend to be better written and are generally more accessible, but sometimes the old school cards can put up big numbers too. O is for otherworldly. Is there something unique about this character that makes them really special within the Magic multiverse? R is for reflection. How well does the card or cards capture what the character is capable of? Having more than one card to your name can really help your score here. And E is for extra, which is different for each video. For this one, I'm going to use E for evasiveness, which is something every rogue needs. It can be charisma for charming your way past guards, or magical powers that make you harder to catch after committing a crime. One last thing, we're only looking at black-bordered cards from the Magic story who have the creature type rogue. Silver border is out. Changelings are out, and so is anyone from the universes beyond. Got it? Okay. With all of that said, it's time to kick off our list with number 23, Gwendolyn de Courcy. She's described as the temptress of Dominaria, but she comes from an era when the story was really more of an afterthought, so she's not getting a great legendary score. I'm also not clear how forcing people to discard cards is supposed to represent seduction, but she did lure like 1,000 warriors to their death, so she must have been pretty evasive to never get caught. Veldraine of Sengir is next in 22nd place. He's a scout, poacher, and messenger for Baron Sengir, but no matter how many times he tries, he's been unable to locate Autumn Willow, and she has had some fun with this, creating Fairy Noble in his image. I do like how Veldraine can trade some of his power for the ability to tiptoe through the forest. It's a good way to show how rogues often rely on stealth over strength, but it still leaves him near the bottom of my list. Anawan does a little better, coming in at 21st. This vampire is currently trying to rebuild his reputation and make some new friends while exploring the skyclaves of Zendikar. He's not very evasive. In fact, he seems to want people to know about him and his achievements, but his ability does represent learning new things by studying people of the past, which helps his score a bit. In 20th place, we find Yasan the Wanderer Bard, who uses magically enhanced music to summon beasts to fight on his behalf. He's a charming native of Shalindar, and he's been known to perform some acts of kindness while out on his adventures, but he considers himself to be a rascal at heart. His card reflects everything we know about him. The longer you're able to sustain the song, the bigger and more powerful creatures you're able to summon. It's a cool ability, unfortunately given to someone with no real story impact. Cheville, Bane of Monsters, suffers a similar fate, although he was at least beaten up by the planeswalker Vivian Reed in a bar fight. Cheville, and I have no idea if that's how you pronounce it, comes from Ikoria and made a name for himself hunting and killing some of the plane's most dangerous game, which is captured well enough on his card, though I wish bounty counters were used on an actual bounty hunter. Oh, they already were! Okay then. Up next is Chandler, who's another rogue with a connection to the best vampire of all time, Baron Sengir. Chandler loves to liberate magical toys and devices from their owners and then sell them, usually to someone buying on behalf of the Baron, who plans to use them in his Day of Triumph, whenever that is. So Chandler scores well in Legendary and Evasiveness, being one of the most successful rogues on his plane, but his reflection score is abysmal because it has him destroying artifact creatures rather than stealing them, which is totally something Red can do on other cards. Anyway, nice hat, Chandler, but we're moving on to 17th place with Thada Adele. She's evasive thanks to her island walk, and she's very good at acquiring things with an ability that lets you steal an artifact right out of your opponent's library. Story-wise, though, all I can tell you is at some point she crossed paths with Noyan Dar, and the two took an immediate disliking to each other. I guess even an Eldrazi invasion isn't enough to make everyone get along. In 16th place, we find Guafa Hazid, and hold your bless you, because I didn't sneeze. That's his name. Guafa was a caravan trader on Bant who wanted to improve his place in life and did so by spreading lies and swindling his fellow citizens, all in the name of Nicol Bolas before the conflux. I am unsure what happened to him after the shards converged, but it is unlikely he was able to bribe the outlanders that flowed into Bant, so he's probably dead. On to 15th place, which is Joven, Chandler's friend from work, and apparently Maybelline's #1 customer. Joven is, by all accounts, an expert thief. He's smart enough to steal only from people who don't have the resources to catch him, and he uses trained ferrets as a distraction. That makes him a pretty good all-around rogue, but just like his buddy Chandler, his card destroys artifacts rather than steal them, which drags his reflection score way down. Also, not sure if you can make it out in the art here, but he is standing in front of Snarg's House of Sin, and now I'm really hoping that's an explorable location in the new Magic Legends role-playing game. 14th place belongs to Maro Nar. A strong and cunning rat folk, or Nizumi, who united 3 separate gangs under his own leadership. Sacrificing rats to make more rats doesn't feel very roguish to me, but he did have some impact on the Kamigawa story, where his infiltration skills were put to use. Edric, Spymaster of Trest, comes next. He's a native to Fiora, otherwise known as the Conspiracy Plane, and he oversees a huge network of spies and couriers. Along with his strong political connections, very little is out of his reach, but there is one secret from his youth that has eluded him for some 400 years now. We can find our next rogue also on Fiora, and that's Grenzo, represented by his 2 cards. First, he was a dungeon warden with a network of agents connected by the plane's sewers and drains. He used his access to the city's underbelly to kill, steal, and blackmail, but when his schemes were foiled, he was put out on the streets. That's when he became the Havoc Raiser, working with the disgruntled planeswalker Duretti and a gang of other goblins to cause mischief and mayhem wherever they traveled. That brings us to 11th place, where we find Stark of Wrath. And if you could just get past the giant knife, you'd see he's really a family man. Okay, yes, he did help Volrath come to power, and he did capture Captain Sisay of the original Weatherlight, but he also switched to the good guy team when he realized they held a better chance at rescuing his captive daughter. And I like how his card can change allegiances too. Unfortunately, he was killed before he could be reunited with his kid, making Stark's story a tragic one in the end, which honestly was kind of par for the course during this era of Magic. Anyway, we're now entering the top 10 rogues, so hold on to your coin purse and watch your back. Things are going to get dangerous. 10th place goes to Rankle, Master of Pranks. He's a hasty flying fairy from Eldraine who loves playing cruel tricks on people, which his card captures pretty well. He wasn't key to the story of Eldraine, but his name does turn up in flavor text quite a bit, which helps his legendary score. I especially like how the witches of the plane have started using spiders as their familiars to keep the evasive fairy out of their hair. For number 9, I've got Tiny Bones. All we really know about this adorable little rogue is that they don't enjoy stealing. They don't enjoy hurting people. They just have a tiny family to feed with a big appetite. Tiny Bones was an instant fan favorite when they were previewed for Jumpstart, and the minuscule animated skeleton crushes the otherworldly and evasiveness scores, but comes up short in story presence and reflection with a card that doesn't actually steal anything. Next comes Varigoth, Blood Sky Sire. Long ago, he was sealed away in Immersturm after rampaging through Bredegard and killing a whole bunch of people. When Tybalt opened the Omen Paths, he was freed again, and this time came face to face with Kaya, Tyvar, and Nico Eris. This gives him a pretty good score across the board, with Reflection being his worst score, because tutoring up a card isn't quite the same as killing it or stealing it, which are the things you would expect a demon rogue to be doing. In 7th place, we find a perfect evasiveness score with Zagras, Thief of Heartbeats. Flying, haste, and death touch together make it almost impossible to catch this guy. Not that you would even want to try. He's from Zendikar, a plane where rogues can fit right into an adventuring party, and Zagras has been doing exactly that as he searches the Skyclaves for ways to make more blood chiefs. The vampires of this plane are in danger of becoming extinct, but with Zagras out there killing other rogues and then taking their places, they might actually have a shot at finding the information they need. Sig, River Cutthroat, is in 6th place. He started out as a helpful river guide before the Great Aurora changed him into something a bit more sinister. His storyline connected him to a lot of other major players like Ashling and Reese, but his card doesn't capture his quest to recover an artifact known as the Crescent of Morningtide, which leaves him just outside my top 5. Tetsuko Umezawa, however, was able to slide right in there, thanks to her use of magical doorways, which allow her to evade Nicol Bolas while she plots against him. She didn't have anything to do in the Dominaria story, but she's the descendant of someone noteworthy, and her card is an excellent representation of someone staying out of sight by using magical doors to get around. 4th place gives us Zareth San, the merfolk pickpocket from Zendikar. He was a friend of Akiri, and the two of them shared several adventures together as they watched Seagate be rebuilt after the Eldrazi invasion. Zareth was enjoying the adventure party lifestyle until he and his team came across the planeswalker Nahiri, which proved to be fatal. So Zareth is dead now, but his tricky nature lives on as one of the most annoying cards in the Rogue Mill deck, because there's nothing like losing a game to your own permanence. In third place, we have Aaron the Relentless, a self-made immortal goblin king, who isn't even a goblin. Yeah, this guy once stole a magical book from Baron Sengir's library and used its most powerful spell to grant himself immortality. He can still feel pain, and damage does leave scars, but otherwise he can't really be killed by normal means. In fact, one time he cut himself into small pieces so he could escape a prison, and then he just kinda knit himself back together outside the cell, like a magical Terminator. And goblins tried to kill him like 27 times, but he just kept getting right back up, and they eventually, begrudgingly, accepted him as their leader, because they didn't know what else to do. We've tried killing him, and we're all out of ideas. Make him king? The only thing that seems to scare Aaron at this point is Baron Sengir himself, who will probably punish him in a really creative way for stealing that book, but so far, he's been unable to catch him. Stealing the number 2 spot from Aaron is a rogue who has literally evaded death, and that's Gonti, Lord of Luxury. The Aetherborn are one of my favorite creature types, and they're something that could really only exist within the Magic multiverse, which gives Gonti a fantastic otherworldly score. They sit atop a massive criminal empire surrounded by the best Kaladesh has to offer, with everything from a fleet of personal airships to a club that features premium live entertainment. Gonti worked with the Gatewatch and the Rebels during the Aether Revolt, offering their services in exchange for favors to be redeemed later. This puts them in a very powerful position, and thanks to the Aether Heart keeping them alive, they should be around to reap those benefits for a very long time. Now we come to the number 1 legendary rogue in all of Magic, but I'm not even really sure who it is because their disguises are just so good. I'm just kidding, of course. It's Sakashima, the imposter of 1,000 faces. As a young orphan, he realized he'd never become important without making some moves, so he poured himself into the study of disguises, and then illusions, which let him infiltrate all walks of life on Kamigawa. He's been everything from an Aki to an ogre, and he's only got one goal left: to fool the Kami and gain access to their realm, which should be impossible for mortals. But hey, what rogue could turn down that kind of challenge? Sakashima, with your mastery of disguise so perfectly captured on 2 cards, and with your own students following in your evasive footsteps, you have gone from lowly orphan to the number 1 rogue when ranked by L.O.R.E. I'd give you a golden mustache, but I'm not sure which face to put it on. Yeah, that'll work. Thanks again to Surfshark VPN, our sponsor for today's video. Make sure you check them out using the link down below, and don't let your data fall into the hands of any rogues in real life. Then make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya!